what happens in mission control? What's let's take few hours before the launch,
Yeah.
before the coverage started. What is going on there? What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
What are checks you're doing? How do you make sure you are really ready for the launch?
Yeah. So in fact, what we do is that these are just consoles where we can control the actual rocket. We can start, give signals, etc., and just see that the health is good or wrong. So what we do is that typically we ensure there's something called pre-countdown activity. So that is almost T minus 5.5 hours before launch.
Okay.
Liftoff time we decided is to be 11:30 a.m. And then T minus 5 hours is when the pre-countdown starts. The tower is removed, the rocket is exposed, and ready to lift off in 5.5 hours. That's the activity, and then we check everything. Whether every electronic package is working, all signals are.
Every minute some check is going on. How many checks are there?
Oh, hundreds
of
checks. Yeah. So anything going wrong or giving some spooky signal, or there's no connectivity, or we are unable to see the health, we hold the launch.
How many components roughly will be there in the whole?
So the entire. So I would say like components will be in tens of thousands, several tens of thousands, and over 1,000 independent systems. And that means like every system has multiple components.
Yeah.
But independent systems are over 1,000, and they all have to work like clockwork. And work like with each other perfectly, and in fact, like the interactions are in milliseconds. Like there are certain sequences which has to happen within milliseconds. Then only that event will.
So you and your team are watching all this pre-flight checklist,
all data, all the health, and then we know that after this we do this, and there's a lot of safety aspects. Right? For example, there are so many breaks. For example, there's a lightning strike comes, or like let's say there is some electromagnetic radiation which can trigger some signals, right? So what we do is that can sometimes cause ignition and then cause some catastrophes. So what we do is that last minute only we remove the last brake. Then it's fully armed. We call it as vehicle is fully armed to lift off.
That happens what time?
That happens T minus 11 minutes, which is automatic launch sequence. That automatic launch sequence, you can't do anything. Human can't do anything. It's full computer takes full control, and it gives signals in in sequence, in prescribed sequence. And anything is out of bounds, we put on hold.
Was there a lot of nervousness also in the room in the mission control?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And but the only thing is that we prepared for literally before the day before a rocket launch. We only pray that it lifts off, because typically, even if you see like Starship, supposed to launch the day before our launch, still the launch is yet to be scheduled because there's a lot of scrubs in the launch. Even there's the 13th launch or 14th launch which they're doing, right? So the first launch, you can expect that it will get scrubbed, but there's very, very high chance, probably 90% chance that it can get scrubbed for the day. Right? That's why when we invited people, also we put a disclaimer that this could get delayed, and it's probably.
And you had a minor hiccup. So we were all watching the countdown. At a 5-minute mark, it automatically stopped. And I think there was it must be pretty nerve-wracking for the team at the time.
Yeah. So it was like that's what is basically we got. So T minus 5.5 hours is when the pre-countdown starts, and then T minus 11 minutes is when the what we call it as ALS, automatic launch sequence. So that the computer takes over. Then every event it completes, checks everything. There's a step-by-step process. Then at T minus 5 minutes, exactly T minus 5 minutes, there is one event which is supposed to happen, but it did not happen, and it was put on hold. And then we announced that the computer put on hold, and then we saw why. Then we started checking. Literally when we knew that as I told, right. So most first launches get on hold. It's pretty common. So we were not so. On sitting there, we were not so tensed per se. We were just focused on how to fix the problem. And but definitely I think there'll be worry for all the people watching. What happened to this event, and that's happened just 5 minutes before, right? So and then when we saw that it was a very minor software thing, that the past memory got stored, and then it did not match with the current data, right? So, and because it didn't match with the current data, it put on hold. Then the moment we realized that it only happened because of this mismatch, the moment we restarted, it's going to work because the current data will be the past data.
I see.
And then it will match with the current data. So typically that's how it was. And then we thought it should work. And then it's like how we restart and it works.
And you were saying, okay, so let's get to the moment of launch now. Was there any apprehension that it will not even ignite or not take off? Like, was that risk there?
Yeah, so that is one of the possibilities, that it will not ignite. The other possibility is that there could be a launch pad incident. In fact, you might be seeing, like, just few months ago there was a major incident happened with Blue Origin launch. So they had, like, on the pad on the I think third or fourth launch, on the pad there was an explosion, a major explosion, and this $2 billion property.
Yeah.
Right. So at risk. So this could be this could be a very big risk happening for the first launch when a private entity is going and launching on a government launch pad, and then you lift off, and then there's a launch pad incident. It is that is exactly what I was praying for.
No message from Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk yet?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. But pretty much everyone else in the world has messaged you by now.
Yeah.
Definitely in India.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's now... So we watched those 50 minutes. At 15 minutes, it seemed like almost like a very fast, within 15 minutes the rocket was up in there. But let's go stage by stage. What was happening and what was firing at each stage? Let's just,
So basically the automatic launch sequence T-minus 11 minutes. And then it starts with the liftoff signal.
Yeah.
It goes, then the first stage gets ignited, and then it took off well. I was very happy that it was going straight up.
So that is your, like, the heaviest stage one firing.
Stage one. So that's what actually lifts up the entire rocket.
And how far does the stage one take the rocket?
So it's around 50 kilometers.
50, okay.
So in fact, the most intense part of the rocket flight journey is in the first 50 kilometers. Because the atmosphere is very thick, and then, like, the stresses are very high. You have vibration, you have everything, thermal loads, heat, vibration, and then the heavy structural loads all happen in the first, in fact, it all happened in the first 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers.
And this first 50 kilometers, roughly about a minute?
Yeah, about a minute. It's around 100 seconds.
100 seconds. So within 100 seconds, like, more or less it's going to work or not
going to work or not. In fact, in the first 20 seconds,
okay,
that, like, most of the things have worked, because there's something called max Q. Max Q means, like, the highest stress on the rocket.
Okay.
And during its journey. And if that crosses, for most first launches, they put that as a criteria. If you reach max Q, that it's like a beyond expectations, typically. Right. So we crossed max Q was, like, very easy for Vikram 1. Actually, that's how the data was, so good. And then we crossed it, and the next the stage one went perfect.
Yeah.
And so just even to recap, first liftoff happens. Yeah. And then you cover the launch tower. This is the most important milestone. Just lifting off straight, crossing the launch tower is in fact, it gave me a lot of relief.